So good afternoon, and thank you for coming. The purpose of this press conference is just to share some information regarding our two most recent homicides that occurred yesterday. As you may know, it's been our process of trying to share as much information as possible with the community. So we're going to be as transparent as possible. So keep in mind the information that we're going to share today is very preliminary, and you know, there's certain things that we cannot share at this time. As time goes on, if we're able to share information, if it's feasible and it's something that we could do that it won't compromise any of our investigations, we will do so. But for now, we just want to give some preliminary information to share with our community. So yesterday in Bridgeport on February 6, 2023, at about 2:19 in the afternoon, at 974 William Street, a 26-year-old male, Tyheem Scales from Naugatuck, was the victim of a homicide by gun violence. He was shot several times. He succumbed to his injuries at Bridgeport Hospital. That's a still ongoing active investigation. Our Detective Bureau are currently following up leads in that investigation, and I believe we are making progress, and we hope to resolve that situation as soon as possible. We want to assure our community that we're doing everything possible to make sure that their area where this happened, that they are safe. At this time, we don't believe that this is a threat to the community at large. We believe this is specific to this particular individual. We want to send our condolences to his family and just assure them that you can contact our Detective Bureau. We have a victim services individual there, and we will provide any services that we can to provide any comfort that we can. Also yesterday, several hours later on, at around 9 o'clock last night, on Trumbull Avenue in our city, in one of our housing communities, a 35-year-old Tyeshon King was the victim of gun violence, and he was shot several times in one of the parking lots, and he also succumbed to his injuries from those shootings. And also, we want to offer our condolences to his family and assure them that we are doing our best to investigate this incident and bring justice to his family. And we also, again, want to let them know that we do have services. Our victim services individual will provide any assistance that we can to provide them any level of comfort as it relates to that matter. And again, to assure them in the community that we're doing the best we can to bring those responsible to justice, and that we're also taking precautions in those areas to provide additional police services and police presence to ensure the safety of our community. And again, we do believe this is the community at large is safe, and that this was isolated to this particular individual. And we're doing our best to bring those responsible to justice for these incidents. At this point, I'm going to just turn it over to our mayor to offer some words, and then we'll take a couple questions. Mr. Mayor.
Chief, thanks. And I thought it was important and appreciative of the chief for making sure that this press conference was called today quickly, and for those that are here responding to get, I think, messages out, some that have been just conveyed by the chief. And let me just add to that. If there's never been anything that replaced public safety as a top priority, and it continues to be in the city of Bridgeport. With the police department under the chief's leadership, the deputy chief, and so many others, it's fair to say that we are taken back certainly by 2 homicides in less than 24 hours. As the chief commented, sometimes you look for connections when you have homicides or shootings closely timed in time or in place, and so certainly defer to the continuation of that investigation to be able to add more details. But public safety is a top priority. This chief has made it. This department has made it. I have made it and will continue to be. To the families, friends, anyone who feels or suffers part of this loss, to the victims, our condolences and our sympathies. This department is working around the clock, literally, on the investigative aspects of this, as the chief says in his words, to bring justice to individuals who've participated in this gun violence, who've caused these deaths in the city of Bridgeport. I think it's also important to note that as we begin this year, and we do it under the new leadership here, part of this is, as the chief has repeated, not only just transparency, but rebuilding and strengthening the bond between the department and the community. And this is an opportunity where we're early on. As you'll hear when you ask questions, there's not going to be a lot of details because we don't have a lot to put out there at this point. But this is where the community can play a significant role and can kind of answer, if you will, Chief Porter's call and the hard work that he's put into making sure that as early as 11 to 12 o'clock today, he did Facebook Live to communicate. We need help to continue to end violence, gun violence in the city of Bridgeport, and anyone who is in earshot, who lives in the city, who knows and it can be helpful, we'd ask you to respond as well. Again, condolences to the families. One more sidestep. Despite the fact that maybe we haven't seen the amount of, we've had more than our share certainly of gun violence, of loss of life, but when you compare it and contrast it to other communities, I want you to know the chief and I have been working hard with the state's attorney, with other mayors, legislators, in order to build on, although we lead, I think, as a state in what we call common sense gun laws, to even strengthen them more so that hopefully we can rid ourselves of press conferences for this purpose, violence and loss of life as a result of gun violence. So thanks so much. I'll answer questions at the end, but I think certainly it's appropriate to get back to the chief and the department to respond to any particular questions.
Before we take questions, I just want to say, one of the things the mayor said is like vital, is one of our key resources to solving any of these crimes is community input and community involvement. So again, we would encourage anybody in the community, if you have information regarding these two incidents, please come forward and share any information you have. We do have a line that you can call. It's 203-576-TIPS, and you can share any information that you have with us. That's a vital component to helping us solve these crimes in a timely manner. So at this time, we'll take any questions that you may have.
So you said that it does not appear that these two are connected. Did the two victims know each other? There had been some chatter that maybe the two of them were friends, and that, I don't know if that was a coincidence, or if you can speak to that.
So I have no information regarding that. They were friends. So at this point, we don't have any information that would indicate that these are connected. But obviously, based on the time proximity, that we are obviously looking at everything. But I don't think we believe at this point that they were connected. But if something arises that indicates that that's the case, then I'm sure my investigators will follow up on that.
You said you don't believe there's a greater threat to the community. Can you share how you know that or came to that?
Well, so what I can say is that we believe these were specific to these individuals and or their actions. And one of the things we are doing to provide even more security to the community is we've increased our police presence in those areas. We did it yesterday afternoon after the first incident. We did it last night as well, and we're going to be doing it throughout, until we deem it, as long as we deem it necessary. So that's what I base that on.
And if you can't, give away all the specifics of the investigation, like, do you believe you know the motives behind these killings yet, or?
Yeah, so this is too early, and I don't know the motives, and we're working to put all that together as we speak.
And will you be doing these press conferences after every homicide, or depending on the circumstances?
So it'll depend on the circumstances. So this one, having two in such close proximity, we just felt the need to get out and do this. And one of the things that we've said from day one, one of the things the mayor has encouraged and emphasized is that we be transparent and share as much information with the community as possible. And this is just keeping in what we've said when I was first appointed, and something that we continue to do. So we'll take each one on a case-by-case basis. Maybe we won't do anything to this degree, but we just feel it very important to keep our community informed.
Chief, you and the mayor both mentioned about cooperation from the community. Are you getting cooperation regarding these two instances, or is the community not comfortable?
So at this point, it's too early to tell, but I can say in the past, I think we've had a very cooperative community, and we hope that continues. But at this point, it's too early to see if we've had any cooperation at this point. But I anticipate that we will get cooperation. And our detective bureau are some of the most professional detectives. Our solvability rate is really high. So I expect that our detectives will bring closure to this, and we'll have some suspects in custody at some point really soon.
And if you don't mind, Chief, I think it's an important message, certainly to the community at large, that call it the closure rate, Chief, if I could, on overall, but on homicides. I don't have the statistics, but I can provide them, or the chief can provide them to you, is admirable, despite the fact that you don't want one. The work that gets done by the department, unseen, maybe kind of recognized by the Detective Bureau. And I'll use that as a message to people to think that this is a place where you can brazen a gun, where you can unload it, or where you can potentially harm or take a life. In Bridgeport, the police department is dead serious about apprehending and bringing people to justice, and they've got a record to prove it.
Yeah, and just to reiterate and touch on some of the things the mayor just mentioned, so we have some programs that we're initiating to actively go after gun violence in the city of Bridgeport. So we're proactively addressing gun violence in the city of Bridgeport.
Can you speak on those programs specifically?
No, it's not something that I want to speak on, but we are aware of it, and we're actively pursuing gun violence in the city of Bridgeport. And as the mayor indicated, the mayor, myself, and the chiefs and mayors from other cities are working with the governor to bring some common sense gun laws to our community in Bridgeport as well as the rest of the state. And I would say I'm pretty confident that the guns used in these incidents were probably illegal guns or illegally possessed guns.
And to add, but not to digress from the topic here, certainly these two homicides, loss of life, and our condolences to the families, that we have been meeting, and the state's attorneys have been involved, and we'll do press on that. But some of the things that we've looked at, and I think this is a fair message for the community to kind of agree on, that by and large, you're usually dealing with a very small, some say less than 1% of the population that causes, take your statistics, 70, 80, 90% of the incidents that call for a 911 response. So we've looked at focusing on that legislatively with other leaders, and some of that will hopefully play itself out again in trying to make it a tighter, more narrow opportunity for individuals, hopefully to eliminate them entirely, at least as one element to support our department and others.
Is there any surveillance footage that you seized or taken into possession with relation to these cases?
Yeah, that's something that we're not going to comment on at this time.
Chief, can you walk us through the incidents a little bit? I mean, these victims were in their cars. Drive up, multiple shots.
Yeah, so I don't want to really get into the specifics of those, but just to say, I don't want to get into the specifics of how they transpired. One happened in the afternoon, one happened at night. I don't really want to get into that type of information at this time. So one of the things we're going to do is our communication staff will be providing follow-ups as we are able to do, and they will share that with you guys. I just wanted to, since he just walked up, this is our Senator Gaston, who is, and he just showed up, and thanks for coming. At some point, our communication staff will release a follow-up, and as we are able to, we'll give out more information as we deem it necessary and appropriate. All right. So thank you for coming, and have a good day.
Say a couple words, Harry?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I don't know if you know some I don't see, some faces here are less familiar recently than others. This is our newest member of the Connecticut State Senate from Bridgeport, who chairs the Public Safety Committee, and I know has spoken out and acted already on gun violence and common sense gun laws, and maybe a couple words, Heron, would be appropriate.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Ganim, and also thank you, Chief Porter, and all of you all who are here. I want to first and foremost offer my sincere condolences to the victims and their families during this horrific tragedy that have claimed the lives of our young people once again. So as the chair of public safety, I have proposed a couple of pieces of legislation around the issue of gun violence. Because we know that this is a epistemic and systemic issue especially plaguing our urban communities. And for the first time in a long time, we've centered these conversations around what could we do more to help our young people. And I think we need to provide more wraparound services, working hand in glove with the law enforcement community as well as the community in general. We know historically that there has been a fraught relationship between just police departments in general and the communities in which they police. And I'm very even-handed and balanced in terms of the way in which I look at this issue. I think that, the public has a responsibility as well to respecting our men and women who put on that uniform every single day to protect and serve the community, while at the same time calling for accountability when issues happen in our police departments that we know is antithetical to good policing. I think we have a great model of policing here in the city of Bridgeport, especially with Chief Porter being at the helm of leadership and his officers and their responsibility to ensure fairness in this community and to improve the community relationship between the police and the community. So I put in a bill along with some of my other colleagues to talk about ways in which we could increase police training, but also involve the community more with the work that police officers do on a daily basis. I want to say this openly and publicly. Crime has no, and violence have nowhere in our society and in our city. And we're going to be working hard to ensure opportunities for our young people. If you want to go to college, we're going to be working very hard to ensure that that's a pathway that is available to you. If you're interested in a trade, we want to make sure that we're curating those opportunities for you as well. If you need wraparound supports, we want to make sure that you have those kind of supports available to you in the community, which is why we're fighting to bring down funding to help with those pathways. But if you are interested in being destructive on our streets, we will take swift and immediate action to make sure that those things are dealt with. We have a responsibility to make sure that we are keeping this community safe, to make Bridgeport a beacon of light for people who want to come here and to live here and to be a part of our economy here. But people deserve to live in a safe environment. So young people, I recognize that it is easier for you to get your hand on a gun than it is for you to get your hand on a textbook or to do something constructive. We want to make sure that we keep putting supports in place for you to be successful here in the city of Bridgeport. We care about each and every one of you. We care about your future. As a minister and a pastor, I've had to bury far too many young people in this community and stand alongside grieving parents. It is not just injurious to the parents, but it's also injury that you do to the community when you destruct in your community. So let's come together. There should never be an issue that results in you having to use a gun or a deadly weapon. We need to do more things around conflict resolution and mediation. One thing that you have to understand is that once you get yourself in trouble, you resign yourself to the cemetery and the graveyard, and there's no coming back from that. Or either you resign yourself to going into the criminal justice system, and so families not only lose you to the criminal justice system, but they also lose you to the cemetery and the grave. And we don't want that to be the end result. So we're here for you. That's why our police department is doing this on today, to recognize what's happening in our community and to talk about a better way forward. I know that our mayor has a commitment to ensuring that this is a safe place for all folks who live here in this city. And he's doing everything that he can to ensure that we're rolling out programs that are going to be effective and working with our community partners to doing the very best that we can do to provide a better quality of life for all of our residents, but especially to our young people. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to working with these families and everybody in the community to ensure that our young people are on a positive trajectory. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
You good? Everybody's good?
Do you know, just real quick, do you know how many homicides there had been to start the year off last year at this time? By
Well,
the
we can probably get you that.
Yeah.
I could guess, but it wouldn't be unusual for any city this size to have, unfortunately, to even say this is uncomfortable, but to have one or two homicides as we go into the second month. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think what we've seen, and I think what the senator mentioned is so appropriate, you know, the mention of youth, the opportunities for youth, you know, working on those elements of it too, which are hand in hand with what the police department's doing. We've seen some, I don't want to say success, but I think, by contrast, I think some of the seeds, if you will, that we've put out into the community, the leadership that, in the approach that the police department has taken, is effective. We need to get more of it, and we need to make it more effective so we can sit here at a press conference on another topic rather than this. But thank you for the question.
Right.
Anyone else? We're good?
Great. Thank you very much.
Chief, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks.